Hello and welcome to No Rest for the Weekend, where we go behind the scenes and talk to the creators of independent entertainment. I'm Jason Godbey, and with me in the Rabbit Hole studio today, she is one of the stars of the indie feature In a New York Minute, and she's currently starring in the Netflix series Wu Assassins, Miss Celia Au.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Hey, Celia. So, thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for making the schlep. We always appreciate it when people come down to the studio.
Of course.
We met at Soho International Film Festival.
Yes, we did.
Where you were with In a New York Minute.
Yes.
And we interviewed the director of that picture. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Wu Assassins, but first I want to talk about you.
Sure, what do you want to know about me?
Well, I want to get a gauge of sort of how you got into this whole show business thing, how you got into acting, how you got into filmmaking, and what is your origin story, so to speak?
Well, I'm a kid from Brooklyn, New York. Give it up for Brooklyn! As a kid, I've never really thought about acting. My parents own a video store, so I grew up watching a lot of films, especially Hong Kong films, because they own like an Asian American video store, which we have like Hong Kong films, Chinese films, Japanese, Korean, and American films, and some European cinemas. And I'm always looking in like movies. I'm like, this is so cool, but I don't know how people make money in this box. Like, a career and a job is like being a lawyer, being a doctor, being a police officer, an accounting, but an actor, that's just never something that occurred to me at all. And when I was in school, I was in a specialized track from junior high school to high school for law. And I wanted to become a lawyer because I thought, hey, being a lawyer could be like a superhero in some sort, like trying to help the good guys and then put the bad guys in jail. And the more I study about law, the more I realize that you work for the person that hires you and the person that pays for you. And that changed my mentality, and then I end up in a track for advertising. Because I was like, oh my God, this is so much fun. You get to be creative, you get to do things and create these elaborate ads and have it inspire people and have them like motivate people to go buy stuff. So then I started college doing that. And first year of college, I took something I thought was an easy A elective called Theater 101. I learned about theater, saw some Broadway shows. I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. And then summer class, I took a summer elective, Acting 101. And I was like, well, this is fun. I learned what a monologue is, but I don't really know. And I remember telling my professor this, that I was like, oh, how does one make a living being an actor? And he goes, well, if I know, I wouldn't be like teaching here. I'm still friends with him. When I tell him about it, he's like, I never said that. I'm like, yes, you did. He's like, no, I did not. He's like, I've never tell my student that. I'm like, I remember that. But yeah, from there on, I was like, I don't take no for an answer. So I end up like Googling stuff, searching for stuff myself. And my first acting job ever was being a background on a TV show, and I was like, what's a background? This is cool. Okay, this is easy. I just sent in my picture, and they're like, oh, you got the job. I'm like, oh, it's so easy to get the job. I showed up, and I was sitting in the background for 16 hours. I'm like, this is the worst job ever. You're not doing anything productive. And I was like, wow, I don't think I'll ever want to become an actor. This is not fun at all. Then there's this guy that walked towards me, and he was an Asian guy, and in the scene he was just getting picked on, and I was like, hey man, this sucks. You're probably the only Asian guy on the show, and you're getting picked on. And he just looked at me and smiled, and he sat next to me. He was like, hey, what's up? What's your name? Do you want to become an actor? Is that what you're inspiring to be? I'm like, no, because this is so boring. I've been sitting here for 16 hours. I'm tired. I want to go home. I have to go to school tomorrow. And he goes, oh, what you're doing is called background. You're literally part of the background. I was like, what?
Yeah, you're like the set.
Yeah, he was like, you're part of the set. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that. And he started describing to me and explaining to me what acting's about and what's like a guest star, what's the lead, what's a one-liner and all. I'm like, oh, this is intriguing. This is cool. And he was like, do you want to try this? And I was like, yeah. He was like, there's not a lot of Asians in our industry. I mean, knock on wood, he was such a nice guy. He met up with me during lunch at school the next day, gave me a rundown, and he introduced me to his manager. And that was my first manager ever.
Very cool. So you kind of sort of happened into the industry. There's so many people that I found you kind of get bitten by the bug as a young person, and then you're infected for the rest of your life. It's like it becomes a systemic virus kind of thing that can take over your whole life if you're not careful. But it seems to be treating you pretty well right now.
Yes, I mean, knock on wood, cross your fingers.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So we're going to talk about. I want to talk about the film first because we saw you guys at Soho. So, in a New York Minute, tell me a little bit about the film and kind of tell me about your part in it.
In a New York Minute, it's a story about 3 Asian women living in New York City and going through their own struggle and their own barriers in life. And the 3 of them are in different classes and different age. So I play a character named Nina who was brought into America by her dad and her stepmom. And then it's kind of like a Cinderella story, and her stepmom basically owns her life. She's always working to pay off a debt that she can never pay off. She's like, we spend so much money bringing you here, was one of her lines, but there's never really a set amount of what that money is. So she just keeps on working, trying to pay that off in a never-ending cycle. So by night she works as an escort, getting cash to try to save enough money to start her own life.
Wow. So not a comedy?
It's a comedy. What are you talking about?
I mean, it sounds like a laugh a minute. And then so you worked. I don't know, when did you actually make that film? Because we saw it at the festival, but
yes.
How long was it in the making, so to speak?
It was, and we shot it in the end of 2017.
Okay.
We finished in the end of 2017, so it took a year for them to edit and then start submitting it to film festivals.
And what were kind of, because we're going to talk about being on, because you've been on series projects with Netflix and AMC, so different experience, I would imagine, on an indie film.
Yes.
What were kind of some of the challenges that you guys had to overcome making in a New York Minute?
For one, the cold. I remember we were shooting in the dead of winter, and I'm always wearing these like skimpy outfits by night, and it's so cold. And Roger Ye, who plays Ian, who plays my boyfriend in the movie, there's constantly every time they call cut, we're like cuddling up next to each other, trying to keep each other warm, and start singing Disney songs to be goofy and to warm ourselves up. And they say action, we're all serious. I'm like, hi, boyfriend.
It's inevitable that when you're shooting in the wintertime, you'll be shooting a summertime scene and wearing shorts.
Most
and
definitely.
Then you'll be shooting winter scenes when they put snow on the ground in the summer and you have to wear a fur coat and it's 900 degrees outside. With the new project right now, so you worked on that. That's currently doing the film festival circuit, and hopefully will. I don't know if they've locked distribution for that yet.
No, they're still currently looking for distribution.
Okay, so if you're out there looking to distribute a film, check out In a New York Minute. It took home Best Feature at Soho International Film Festival. Moving along to the Netflix show, so Wu Assassins.
Yes.
I talked a little bit about it on the show last week, but for those who didn't catch it, what is that show about?
Wu Assassins is a martial arts fantasy show set in San Francisco Chinatown. And basically it's about this one guy living his normal life in Chinatown, and one day bumps into this person named Ying Ying, who I play, and then I tell him that he is the Wu assassin and that there's supernatural powers in this world. And he goes, are you kidding me? No way, there's no supernatural powers in this world. I live in San Francisco, I grew up here, none of this happens. And after I told him that, he's starting to realize there's kind of mystical, magical forces and things are happening. And then he have to accept the fact that he's the Wu assassins and he needs to help finish my mission in completing, because so the Wu assassin, basically Wu means 5 in Chinese.
Okay.
It's the assassins of the 5.
See, that's good to know because I had no idea what Wu meant.
It's not the last name Wu.
Okay.
But, so it's the 5 elements. So the little bit of a backstory is that there's these 5 elemental powers, and it was landed in the wrong hand. So these people use it for bad. So it's like usually throughout history, warlords were using it to cause destruction in the world and to try to control and hold power. And then cut to modern day as these basically triad leaders, gang leaders, mafia leaders that are holding these 5 powers right now. And in order to grab them, to get them back, the Wu assassin needs to kill them.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yes, and take the power back and to restore balance into the world.
So you, from the trailer that because I haven't seen the show yet, because we're taping this before it comes out, but by the time this episode airs, you'll be able to watch Wu Assassins on Netflix. From the trailer, you kind of come off like the Obi-Wan or the Yoda to this guy, where you're kind of telling him what he was born to be, or like you kind of you're a little bit like the sensei, I guess, type of thing. Is that how you would describe it?
Yes, there are certain days on set that our crew was like, "Oh, hey, Yoda's here."
So you're like Yoda if he was like a petite Asian woman kind of thing instead of a little green man.
Yeah, and younger. I guess I'm like one of the youngest. I'm not sure if this is right or wrong, but I believe I am the youngest portrayed master.
Okay.
Like look-wise, because
Okay.
I'm supposed to be a millennia old in the show. But
Oh, okay.
look-wise.
So you're actually older than you look.
Yes.
Kind of thing. All right. Doing that type of show, that compared to, say, doing an indie feature, what are the differences in that? Like in terms of the way, like if there are other actors out there, in terms of like if you're going to do an indie feature, I think a lot of people know it's you're kind of roughing it a little bit. You're not going to get all of the accommodations that you do on a studio shoot. But when you're doing a series, you guys are block shooting these episodes.
Correct.
So are they keeping you for like a set amount of time for a few months, and then you're kind of in all of the scenes that you're in, and they're sort of shooting you out type of thing, or are you kind of there for the duration?
You're there for the duration of the show.
Okay.
Because like TV, things are changing constantly, right? When we block shoot, you get 2 episodes at once. So we'll shoot all the scenes for the 2 episodes at a time. So basically, what block shooting is like, all right, let's say we are at this location here, and it's the span of 2 episodes. There will be scenes happening in this location. We'll shoot all the scenes within those 2 episodes today or tomorrow, like in this.
It's
span
more
of time.
by location than
By
it is.
location,
right.
yeah.
That makes sense. I mean, I think a lot more shows are doing that now.
Yes, most definitely.
And I think it's more of like a budget thing too, because for a normal show, if you're doing, in the old days they did 23 episode seasons, which some networks are still doing, but now it's more like 12 or 13. I don't know how many episodes are going to be in the first season.
Wu Assassins is 10 episodes.
10 episodes, so that's pretty typical of a Netflix show. So they're block shooting, and then this way they can have the writers, and then work with them, let them go, and then shoot everything. They'll let the actors go. The actors can go do other things, and then if they get picked up for another season, they can kind of rinse and repeat and do the same thing over again.
Yeah, I mean the writers are there with us the whole time.
Oh, that's cool.
Yes,
that's
even
cool.
though they have written the scripts already, because if we have any questions or any changes, and because writing everything on a page is one thing, shooting it is also another thing, and editing is basically another thing, and changes the story every step of the way. So they're always there with us.
Well, that's really good, because I've heard of the opposite, where they've had sort of freelance writer's room, and then they write everything, let them go, and then shoot everything. Maybe the showrunners are there, obviously, but I'm assuming the showrunners are kind of guiding you guys through the whole process.
Yeah, he's amazing. Our showrunner, his name is John Worth.
Okay.
He did Hell on Wheels. He did Terminator, the series, and he's just, I have to say, he's one of the most amazing guys we've ever worked with. He's very caring. He was like, hey guys, here's the episode, read it. If there's any questions or any concerns, call me, we'll talk about it. And he's always open to listen to us.
TV now, especially in the streaming era, is very much a showrunner medium. Like these guys are more than directors, more than some of the other producers or any of the other writers. They're really kind of shepherding the show. Because you work with different directors, for each of the episodes. They don't have one guy directing 10 episodes.
No, they don't. But since it's block shooting, so for most of the time we have one director directing 2 episodes at once.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, this way you don't have to worry about 2 directors at the same time. So moving on from that a little bit. So with Wu Assassins, that's out it came out in August. That'll be out now. Hopefully you guys get picked up for another season of that.
Yes. So guys, check it out.
And so one thing I would probably ask you about that show in terms of challenges. So you're playing this character, and your character, there are these characters that I've seen, and you've seen them in movies, you've seen them in shows, where they're kind of exposition machines, where they're just their main dramatic purpose is to tell, like you said, like you're there to tell the main character who he is. Like, so what are some of the challenges in trying to like make that a real person and not just make her the person, just the exposition machine of be like, here's where in the script I tell you that you are meant for more than, this kind of thing.
I think that's up to basically an actor, right? Like, I'm not sure if you've ever seen Meryl Streep on Ellen, and she was just giving her like this random text, and she's just acting out like, oh, pretend that you're like a lady giving birth, but you're in an ambulance. Like, it's for the actor to interpret it and to make it fun and make it, fun for the audience to watch and find a purpose on it. My character, at least when we were first developing it, my director told me, he was like, hey, I know what like Yin Yang would be like in a traditional form of like martial arts film, or even like a Yoda or whatever, right? But he was like, I want you to put a little spin. Let's make it a little bit more fun. She's not as serious. There is seriousness to her when she needs to be, but she can also be fun. It's fun to like play with, be around. She's a bit.
How were you able to do that? How were you able to kind of inject some fun into that? Because sometimes it's just not there on the page. So what were the kind of like quirks and stuff that you were able to give to it and make her more fun and make her more of like a well-rounded person?
It's not always like the lines itself. It's also moments in between, right, that you can do. And even just sometimes just a look of, hey, I got you, and then moving on and tell them like, oh, this is what you have to do, and be really serious with certain parts. I mean, even like your most serious teacher you have in school, there's something fun about them too. So they're not always like the mean, like stoic kind of person.
You're able to give it a bit of a wink, kind of thing.
Yes.
Do you teach the main character martial arts? First of all, who plays the main character in that?
The main character the character name's Kai, played by Iko Uwais. He's if you guys watch The Raid, he's this awesome martial artist in The Raid. They call him like the modern day Jackie Chan. Like he's funny, he's a great guy, and he moves really well, and he can fight. He definitely can fight. The
stunts and the fight sequences in The Raid are amazing, and he seems like he's going to be a real star. Like
he is already a star, I would say. Yeah.
I think that for someone like him, next step is, he'll probably get recruited to be a superhero or something. He'll probably wind up in a Marvel movie. But do you get to do any martial arts in there? Do you, as you're teaching him? Did you study that sort of thing?
Yeah, I've been studying martial arts, not for long, not like Iko or Lewis or Juju. The three of them are amazing martial artists. I've studied martial arts for around 3.5, 4 years now, right here in Chinatown, New York. I've learned like some sword fighting. Our forms were tiger forms, Shaolin forms. I've done some staff, some daggers, but definitely not like Iko.
No, he's intense. He's probably been doing it since he was like 4. He looks like he's been a martial artist his entire life. This is out now. You also have another show on AMC.
Yes.
That you're doing. What's that show?
It's called Lodge 49 on AMC. Wait, this is going to be September. Okay, the show will still be going on right now.
Right. The show's already had a first season. It's going in the second season.
Yes.
What is the show about? Just give us a little background on and who do you play in it?
I play a character named Alice Spa, and she's a 17-year-old surfer from Long Beach, California, and she works at her dad's donut shop. And the story revolves around a guy named the Dudleys, right? The Sean Dudley, who in season 1 you see that his dad recently passed away, and he's trying to look for a purpose in life and trying to find himself again with his sister Liz Dudley. This first season, you can check it out right now on Hulu. And so like I'm a character that grew up in the same strip mall as like the Dudleys' parents dad owned this pool shop. So I always look up to them, but they are not the best role models for me. And my dad always tells me, like, oh, I don't want you to end up like the Dudleys. And I'm like, what? He's a surfer. I want to surf. He doesn't want to go to school. I don't want to go to school. So I feel like we're really good friends, and I'm always there for Dud. And Dud's always there for me, and he takes care of me when he sees that there's something wrong, and vice versa.
It's sort of a coming-of-age drama type thing?
They call it, in the press, they've been calling it like the Big Lebowski of television.
If only we could inject some of the martial arts into that one.
Well, that one, I'm a surfer. As an actor, you play pretend. You can't be pretending to be the same person all the time, right?
Right. What I would say, too, is because this this show is all about giving advice to potential filmmakers, creators, actors, artists out there who want to, get into film and television. Is there any advice that you would give somebody, say they were a young actor starting out, or say they were an actor maybe kind of stuck in their lane and they want to move on to the next step? What advice would you give somebody?
At least for myself, I'll always say, always stay humble and kind. Because, I mean, this industry is already competitive enough, and if you can't stay humble, you just get angry and get mad, and I don't want anyone to feel like that. So I guess don't give up, keep learning. I mean, every step of the way, there's in life you don't stop learning. Like throughout the years that I've been acting, like different coaches have taught me different things, and I'm grateful. And stay in contact with people, and yeah.
I think probably one of the hardest things is just sort of keeping your humanity, trying to do all this stuff, because it is such if you're a filmmaker or an actor, I think it's the infinite hustle. Like you're here right now, you've been doing the junket for the show, so you're interviewing, but then you're probably auditioning for something else on another day, and you're in 2 shows at once, and it's all just having a career. There's something like, the busier you are, it's like the luckier you are, and the more it's sort of a privilege to work. Joseph Melendez, who's been on the show, he works a lot too. He describes it as auditioning is the job, and the vacation is when you actually get to go to work.
I agree with that. I mean, not knock on wood, but our profession includes a lot of rejection, and I know that there's times that you're like, oh my god, this sucks, right? That you keep on getting rejected, but you just have to find it. You have to love the craft, the art so much that it will propel you. It's like, I can keep on going, and getting that one job is so rewarding. Say like getting Wu Assassins, being on Lodge, being on even like on New York Minute, getting to be able to play and be able to meet other people and to see all the creative minds coming together and putting a project together. I think that's the best reward you can get.
Yeah, and it takes a while to get to that point, I think, where you're actually working, and it's it is. It's kind of, and for me too, like just to get to make films or to get that project done, it's such a relief. You have to work so hard just to do something.
Get rejected like 100 times.
It's like the job is rejection. Like it's like you majored in rejection kind of thing, and then every once in a while when you don't, that's the exception to the rule, is not getting rejected. But let's face it, not everybody can do that. Not everybody can take the amount of rejection and have the kind of like will and resolve it takes to get to see the other side of the mountain. Because most of the time, if like you said, it's like if you don't really want to do it, don't.
I mean, I'm not lying. Like it never gets better at getting rejected. Like you always feel like, what can I do better? Like you'll mull over it for a while. I always tell myself, I give myself one day to be upset, and then you got to move on.
That's a good tip right there. You get to mope for one day.
Yeah, and then you got to move on. You just can't keep thinking about that. Just keep on going.
Yeah, that's excellent bit, and we're gonna wrap up here. But if anybody wants to know more about you or find you, where can they find you on the web?
You can follow me on my social media. It's all just at itsceliaau.com. I mean, at itsceliaau. This is ITS Celia CELIA AU, and see
and
you
that's
guys
on Instagram, Facebook,
Twitter.
Okay, fantastic.
And Snapchat, which I've never really used. I'm not that great in Snapchat.
I'm too old for Snapchat. I think I aged out of Snapchat about 10 years ago. So, definitely follow her. She's doing some amazing things. We're going to wrap up, but thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
And so great to have another great Brooklyn girl on the show.
Yes.
We it's not like we give special treatment to Brooklyn folk, but this is where we're at. So, but definitely check out Wu Assassins and check out Lodge 49.
Yes.
And just keep track of her. She's doing amazing things. And check out In the New York Minute as well.
Don't give up, guys. You can do it.
So for Behind the Radar Productions, I'm just going to wrap up right now. For more episodes of this show, you can find them on our website, norestoftheweekendpodcast.com. You can also find us on all the major podcast channels. And now we're on Patreon, so you can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/norestoftheweekend. And for Behind the Radar Productions, I'm Jason Godbey. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.